Politeness is not kindness. It is submission dressed in manners. And the world has trained you, quietly, relentlessly, to confuse the two. You were taught that being polite makes you safe, likable, acceptable. But Machiavelli understood something most never do. Politeness is often the signal predators look for. It tells them where the boundaries are soft. It tells them who will hesitate. It tells them who can be pushed. You live in a social ecosystem, not a moral classroom. Every interaction is a negotiation of status, leverage, and perception. The mistake you've been making is assuming good intentions govern human behavior. They do not. Incentives do. Fear does. Opportunity does. When politeness appears where strength should be displayed, it is interpreted not as virtue, but as weakness. You feel this already. You felt it in conversations where your words were ignored, in rooms where your presence shrank instead of expanded, in moments where you knew you were being tested and you smiled instead of standing firm. That smile cost you more than you realize, because humans, like all social animals, are constantly scanning for dominance cues. They are not listening to what you say, they are watching what you tolerate. Machiavelli's warning was never about cruelty, it was about clarity. He saw that power does not respond to courtesy the way conscience does. Power responds to resistance, to certainty, to the quiet implication that crossing you will have consequences. Politeness in the wrong moment dissolves that implication. It tells the other mind that you value harmony more than control, and once that is known, it cannot be unseen. This is not philosophy born from books, it is biology. In primate hierarchies, submission signals invite pressure. The one who averts his gaze is the one who gets mounted, displaced, fed last. Humans have only refined the signals. Polite language replaces lowered eyes. Apologies replace retreat. Laughter replaces fear. But the nervous system reading you is ancient. It does not care about your intentions. It cares about your posture in the hierarchy. The great illusion is that politeness keeps conflict away. In truth, it invites it, slowly, strategically, from those who sense they can extract something from you. Time, attention, labor, respect. And once extraction begins, it rarely stops on its own. You become useful, and useful people are rarely respected. You've been told that refusing, confronting, or asserting makes you dangerous, that it isolates you, that it makes you difficult. Machiavelli would laugh at this. Difficulty is not a flaw in a power structure, it is a filter. It removes those who seek to dominate you cheaply. It attracts those who understand boundaries and speak in the language of strength. There are moments, specific critical moments, where politeness is not neutral, it is self-sabotage. Moments where silence is interpreted as consent, where softness is interpreted as permission, where courtesy becomes a confession that you are unarmed. This is where the inversion begins, when you understand that politeness is a tool, not a virtue, that it must be deployed selectively, never reflexively, that withholding it in the right moment does more to protect you than any smile ever could. What follows are 5 situations Machiavelli would warn you about, not suggestions, warnings. Ignore them and you will remain manageable, predictable, safe for others to exploit. Understand them and something shifts. Your presence hardens, your words carry weight, and people begin to listen before you speak. The first situation is the most common and the most dangerous, because it feels harmless, it feels social, it feels normal. That is why it works.
The first situation where politeness becomes a liability is when you are being subtly disrespected, not openly attacked, not confronted directly, but diminished in small, deniable ways. A joke at your expense that lands a second too long, a decision made without consulting you. your words ignored, then repeated by someone else and suddenly praised. This is where most people fail, because they wait for certainty, and certainty never comes. Disrespect is rarely announced. It is tested, probed, offered softly like a hand checking for warmth. The moment you respond with politeness, you confirm something dangerous, that the cost of diminishing you is low, that you will absorb the slight in silence and preserve harmony at your own expense. In the mind of the other person, the experiment succeeds, and once it succeeds, it escalates. Machiavelli understood that power is maintained not by grand gestures, but by immediate corrections. The animal that allows a nip without response is marked. The social mind does the same calculus. When you fail to respond to subtle disrespect, you are training others how to treat you. You are conditioning them to step closer, to take more space, to speak over you without fear. Politeness here is not maturity, it is avoidance. You are avoiding tension, and in doing so, you are creating a long-term imbalance, because tension does not disappear, it accumulates. It turns into resentment, or worse, invisibility. And invisibility is the death of influence. Notice what happens when someone addresses a slight calmly but firmly, not with anger, not with explanation, just a brief, controlled interruption, a correction. The room recalibrates, not because of the words themselves, but because of the signal beneath them. The signal says, "I am aware, I am present, I do not need your approval." The nervous systems around you register that immediately. Most people never learn this because they are taught that calling out disrespect is rude. This is a lie designed to protect those who benefit from pushing boundaries. The truth is simpler. Disrespect unchallenged becomes structure. It becomes the new normal. And once it hardens into structure, breaking it requires far more force than it ever would have taken to stop it early. There is a reason dominant individuals rarely raise their voices. They don't need to. Their power is front-loaded. It appears early, precisely, and without apology. They correct quietly, so they never have to explode later. Polite people do the opposite. They absorb, absorb, absorb. Then one day, they snap. And when they do, no one takes them seriously, because the hierarchy has already been written. This is not about ego. It is about position. When you allow yourself to be diminished, you lose leverage. And leverage, once gone, is not restored through kindness. It is restored through demonstrated boundaries. The earlier those boundaries appear, the less conflict is required to maintain them. Understand this: the human mind is lazy. It wants the simplest map possible. If you present yourself as someone who requires care in how they are treated, the mind adapts. If you present yourself as someone who will tolerate erosion, the mind exploits it. Not always consciously, but inevitably. So the next time something feels slightly off, slightly dismissive, slightly incorrect, do not rush to be polite. Do not smooth it over. Pause, correct, clarify. Let the moment sharpen instead of dissolving. You are not creating conflict, you are preventing decay. And this is only the beginning, because there are situations far more dangerous than subtle disrespect. Situations where politeness doesn't just weaken you, it marks you. The second is where authority enters the room. The second situation where politeness becomes a strategic error is when you are dealing with authority that is testing compliance. Not authority that is fair, not authority that is earned, but authority that is uncertain of itself and searching for signals. This is where many people kneel without realizing they are doing so. Unstable authority is always watching. It listens less to your words and more to your tone, your posture, your speed of response. Politeness in these moments is interpreted as deference, and deference, once offered, is rarely released. You think you are being respectful, they think you are teachable, correctable, manageable. Machiavelli warned that rulers who sense obedience without resistance begin to demand it. Not because they are evil, but because the human mind equates compliance with capacity. If you comply easily, you must be capable of complying more.
So the requests increase, the expectations rise, the boundaries blur, and suddenly you are no longer interacting with authority, you are serving it. Notice how true power behaves. It does not rush to please other power. It moves slowly. It asks questions. It pauses before agreeing. These pauses are not accidents, they are signals. They say, I am not impressed by your title. I am evaluating your legitimacy. This is deeply unsettling to insecure authority, which is why politeness is encouraged from below. It keeps the hierarchy clean, predictable, unchallenged. Most people are trained to believe that challenging authority is dangerous. Sometimes it is, but submitting preemptively is always dangerous, because once you are categorized as compliant, you are no longer negotiated with, you are instructed. And instruction removes dignity. It turns interaction into extraction. This is why Machiavelli advised appearing respectful while remaining unyielding. The distinction is subtle but absolute. Respect is a surface behavior. Yielding is a structural decision. You can be calm, composed, even courteous in tone without surrendering your position. Politeness that conceals resistance is strength. Politeness that replaces resistance is weakness. Authority tests begin small, a request framed as a favor, a rule applied inconsistently, a deadline moved without consultation. Each is a probe. When you respond with immediate accommodation, you fail the test, not morally, strategically, because the test was never about the task, it was about you. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Authority respects those who make its life slightly harder, not through defiance, through friction, through the subtle implication that access to you requires justification, that your agreement is not automatic, that you are not operating from fear. The biological root of this is ancient. In hierarchical species, leaders rely on the tension between dominance and resistance to stabilize their position. Too much resistance, and they must suppress. Too little, and they must expand control to feel real. Politeness removes that tension. It creates a vacuum, and authority fills vacuums instinctively. You feel this when you over-deliver and receive more demands instead of gratitude, when you say yes and are given less respect, not more, when your reliability becomes a reason to burden you. This is not bad luck, it is hierarchy adjusting. The correction is internal before it is external. You must detach politeness from safety. You must learn that calm refusal is not aggression, that questions are not threats, that silence can be more powerful than agreement. When authority senses that you are not eager to be approved, it recalibrates, it slows down, it explains itself. That is the moment balance returns. But there is a third situation, even more corrosive, where politeness does not just invite pressure, it destroys your position entirely. This is when you are negotiating value.
The third situation where politeness becomes fatal is when you are negotiating value, your time, your labor, your attention, your worth. This is where politeness quietly convinces you to betray yourself before anyone else has to. Negotiation is not a conversation, it is a measurement. The other side is not listening for fairness, they are listening for thresholds. How quickly you respond, how softly you speak, how eagerly you explain yourself. Politeness in this context is not interpreted as professionalism, it is interpreted as flexibility. And flexibility in negotiation means you can be bent. Machiavelli understood that value is never declared, it is implied. The moment you over-justify, over-accommodate, or preemptively soften your position, you lower the implied cost of access to you. You tell the other mind that you are unsure of your leverage, and once that uncertainty is detected, the negotiation is already tilted. Notice how people with real power negotiate. They do not rush to fill silence. They do not apologize for their terms. They do not frame their needs as inconveniences. Silence does the work for them.
Stillness becomes pressure. The other side begins to move, not because they are convinced, but because they are uncomfortable. Polite negotiators cannot tolerate this discomfort. They rush to relieve it. They add concessions disguised as kindness. They smile while giving ground, and then they wonder why they feel resentful afterward. The resentment is the body recognizing a loss of territory. This is not about being rude. It is about refusing to dilute your position with unnecessary warmth. Warmth lowers perceived value. This is a brutal truth, but a true one. Scarcity raises value. Detachment signals abundance. Politeness signals availability, and availability is cheap. The evolutionary logic is simple. What is easy to obtain is assumed to be of low worth. What requires effort is assumed to be valuable. When you negotiate politely, you remove effort. You make access to you smooth, pleasant, frictionless, and in doing so, you collapse your own status. This is why Machiavelli warned against appearing too accommodating. Generosity, when unreciprocated, invites exploitation. Fairness, when unguarded, invites imbalance. The other party may not consciously intend to take more, but the structure encourages it. Humans follow incentives, not ideals. Pay attention to how often you say, "It's no problem," when it is, in fact, a problem. How often you accept less than you want to avoid appearing difficult. Each time you do this, you are teaching the world a dangerous lesson, that your needs are negotiable downward, but theirs are fixed. The correction requires discipline. You must allow silence to stretch. You must allow the other person to sit with your terms without reassurance. You must resist the urge to rescue them from discomfort. This is not cruelty, it is clarity, and clarity is the foundation of respect. When you stop negotiating like someone who needs approval, something changes. The other side begins to explain themselves, to justify, to offer more, not because you demanded it, but because your refusal to overgive forces recalibration. But there is an even more primal situation where politeness does not just reduce your value, it invites attack. This is when you are dealing with people who sense weakness instinctively. The fourth situation where politeness becomes dangerous is when you are dealing with aggressive or manipulative personalities. Not overtly violent ones, those are easy to spot, but the subtle predators, the ones who probe with charm, guilt, or false concern. These individuals do not respond to kindness, they assess it, they taste it, and if it dissolves too easily, they move closer. Predatory personalities are hyper-attuned to boundaries, not because they respect them, but because they search for gaps. Politeness creates gaps. It slows reaction time. It replaces instinct with etiquette, and predators exploit hesitation above all else. Machiavelli understood this dynamic deeply. He observed that cruelty, when used decisively, prevents greater cruelty later. The same principle applies psychologically. Firm resistance early prevents prolonged manipulation. Politeness prolongs it. It keeps the door open. It allows the predator to escalate without consequence. These personalities operate on conditioning. They apply pressure. If you yield, they increase it. If you resist, they retreat or redirect. This is not moral behavior. It is mechanical. And the mechanism does not care about your intentions, only your response. Notice how manipulators frame their intrusions. They disguise demands as needs. They frame violations as misunderstandings. They rely on your desire to be seen as reasonable. Politeness becomes the leash they use to guide you. Every apology you offer without wrongdoing tightens it. The biological underpinning is again ancient. In the wild, predators select prey that flee poorly, hesitate, or signal submission. Humans have translated these signals into social behavior. Over-explaining, nervous laughter, excessive politeness, these are read not as civility, but as vulnerability. The mistake most people make is believing that politeness will disarm aggression.
It does not. It signals that aggression will not be met with resistance, and aggression without resistance grows bolder, more entitled, more invasive. The correction is not confrontation for its own sake. It is firmness without emotion. Short responses, clear refusals, no justification, no apologies. The moment you remove emotional reward and access, the manipulator loses interest because the exchange is no longer profitable. This is why powerful individuals often appear cold to those who do not know them. It is not cruelty, it is filtration. Warmth is offered selectively, not reflexively. Politeness is reserved for those who have proven they respect boundaries. Understand this clearly. Predators are not offended by your firmness, they are repelled by it. They move on to easier targets, targets who believe that being polite is the same as being safe. And now we reach the final situation, the most subtle, the one that determines whether everything you've heard becomes instinct or remains theory. This is when you are tempted to be polite with yourself.
The fifth and final situation where politeness must die is when you are lying to yourself in order to remain comfortable. This is the most dangerous form of politeness because it wears your own voice. It sounds reasonable, it sounds patient, it sounds like self-control, but it is self-betrayal refined into habit. You excuse behavior you know is unacceptable. You tolerate environments that drain you. You soften your internal language to avoid confronting what must change. This is politeness turned inward, and it rots you from the center. Machiavelli warned that the ruler who refuses to see reality as it is will be ruled by it. The same law governs the mind. Your internal hierarchy determines your external one. If you negotiate against yourself, others will sense it. If you compromise internally, you will compromise publicly. Power begins with coherence, with the refusal to lie to your own perception. This is where most people collapse, not because the world defeats them, but because they keep themselves calm when they should be alert, polite to their own weakness, forgiving of patterns that deserve correction. They confuse patience with progress. They confuse tolerance with strength. The human mind respects what is enforced, even your own. When you refuse to correct yourself, your discipline dissolves. And when discipline dissolves, authority follows, first internally, then everywhere else. Machiavelli understood that self-command is the root of all command. A man who cannot govern his reactions cannot govern outcomes. Politeness toward your own excuses creates a split. You know what must be done, but you allow delay, and delay is the enemy of power. This does not mean cruelty toward yourself. It means precision, honesty without cushioning. When something is beneath you, you name it. When something weakens you, you remove it. When a pattern repeats, you stop pretending it will change on its own. Here is the inversion that completes the lesson. Politeness is not evil. It is simply not sacred. It is a tool, and tools are meant to be used, not worshipped. The powerful are polite when it costs them nothing. They are firm when politeness would cost them position. They do not confuse civility with surrender. You now understand what most never will, that being liked is not the same as being respected, that harmony is often the reward of strength, not its substitute, that refusing to be polite in the right moments does not make you dangerous, it makes you clear. From this point forward, you will notice shifts. Conversations change tone, requests come with explanation, disrespect hesitates, predators lose interest, and internally, something aligns. You stop leaking energy through appeasement. You stop bargaining with reality. This is not knowledge for everyone, Most people need politeness to survive because they have nothing else. But those who seek control, clarity, and dominance understand when to withdraw it. If you are one of them, you already know what to do next. Subscribe, not as a gesture, but as a declaration. This channel is not for the polite, the passive, or the comfortable. It is for those who choose to see clearly, think coldly, and move with intent.